part of what makes us unique is that I take a reverse engineer approach, much like an engineer would on assembling the blend. So first of all, most importantly, I take into account Rob and Diana Jensen's vision and desires for the final wines to be very exciting and striking a nerve with them. And then we flow from there into wines that I really enjoy and get excited about, and use that as my architectural frame. And so we take that into account, and then we go from there to much like a musician does with organizing a symphony. We take individual components, we look at them singularly to determine, are they in tune, are they in harmony, is there a good wine balance there? And certainly the wines that show some great promise, they tend to have a little more length, a little more wow factor, and it just feels right. And that's how I come about the blending process. So where I go from there is I taste every single barrel in the spring typically to really refine how each barrel is playing amongst the others. I want the wines to be really distinctive, authentic, reflective of the place, but I also want them to be very tasty and appealing. So we really like to take a holistic approach on, once we get the overall design right, we then try to make sure it's in harmony as well as very enjoyable. And lastly, it has to be consistent. So each year we always taste the previous vintage against the new vintage to make sure we're matching or improving upon where we've been. So that, I would say, is a very distinct and unique feature that we do here at the winery compared to other wineries. And the process of blending really starts back in the vineyards. Having grown up on a vineyard, I really like to take the hands-on approach with the farmers to fine-tune our farming upstream so that we can achieve the quality downstream with as little jostling last minute, maneuvering in the cellars, because the more we handle a wine late in its life, the faster it accelerates to its decline. So in effect, I really start the process all year long with the growers, taking steps to improve quality. How do we look at each vineyard distinctively? We don't take a carbon copy approach to all the vineyards. We really look at individualizing each vineyard, its needs, how to enhance its qualities, how to diminish any shortcomings. And so as we get into harvest, all the decisions we make are based on taste. So the decision to pick, the decision to press off the skins in the case of Pinot Noir, when to take it out of oak, when to bottle, all of those decisions are made by taste. So once harvest slows down in the off-season, we'll go ahead and split up my winemaking team, and we'll each divide and conquer each of the cellars, because there's many barrels that we have to juggle, and each are essentially going on their own separate journey. So we're essentially trying to harmonize them, and so they don't become too many in an outlier behavior. So with each coworker, we'll tackle a cellar, and every 2 weeks I taste that cellar through the barrels with that particular staff member. So we hop around every 2 weeks, about 2 barrels per lot. Sometimes we'll have up to 150 lots in the cellar, and every 2 weeks we found is a good balance of acting but not overreacting. If we were to taste every day, we'd be more tempted to take action, to maneuver the wines, to possibly overhandle them and then later regret it. So we found is we like to play a wait and see approach. So as we get through that off season in the wintertime, guiding the wines to complete their fermentation, we'll then get them to a point where they're all on what I would say autopilot, where they're behaving, there's no sharp turns they're taking, they're going in the right course towards a marathon pace for a graceful life ahead. I will then go ahead and jump through into the cellars and then start tasting every single barrel And of course, it takes me a couple of weeks to get through the cellars. But what I do is I score each barrel in a case of 1, 2, 3, 3 being Neclaire, Diana's Reserve wine potential, 2 being single vineyard, 1 being appellation. And in the rare cases, if it doesn't make a 1 number for whatever reason, failed experiment, or a year that was off for a particular lot, we will declassify, sell off to another winery, and then from there I'll also make recommendations. Let's try this oak pairing next year. This might be a better match with this vineyard. So I really do a surgical deep dive into the blending of each component, and then from those notes I then take into account the volumetric needs of our wine programs and reverse engineer back into some blending iterations of different oak levels, different clones. And so once I've assembled anywhere from 2 to 5 different blend trials, we'll present it to the principals and much of the wine team, as well as the sales team. So we have upwards of 20 to 30 people in these blending sessions. And so the benefit of that is we also harmonize and stabilize any inconsistencies. We all have our off days or allergies or something we ate didn't agree with us, so it really helps us to maintain a broader consistency year to year. We want to make sure that we're not making any large blending decisions that radically change how our wines are approached. But for the most part, we're usually pretty happy with the wines, and then we start the process of determining when we'll ultimately put those wines to bottle. So really, we try to take a simplistic approach from grape growing all the way to bottle, the least amount of maneuvering, the least amount of additions to the product to give the purest expression of the land to your glass. So we hope you enjoy those wines that we've put together for you, and hopefully this blending trial can help you better understand how we come about putting together all those wonderful wines. Thank you.